Good morning, Year 5-6. Welcome to the last lesson of the Happiness Project. I really hope that you're getting on okay with this, and perhaps it's inspired you to do a bit of your own artwork as well. So today, this is the final lesson, and for this lesson, you're going to need some plain paper. I've put on here A4 because it's what's most accessible at home. If you've got bigger though, if you've got A3, that would be amazing, and then we can really make something of this. You will need a pencil. I'm going to do the initial drawing in a 2H, and then I'm going to be using a 2B and a 6B, just to show you how you can use the pencils. But if you've just got a HB at home, honestly, that's absolutely fine as well. So that HB is just your normal writing pencil. Okay. And then colour. So today I'm going to be demonstrating using watercolours. Now, you might have some lovely art resources at home. So you might have pastels, you might have your own paints. If you haven't got that type of thing, maybe you've got some food colouring in your cupboard, you can use that as well. Okay, now today we're going to be being quite imaginative with this. Okay, so as long as you've got some colour, that's wonderful. Okay, so the last part of our project, we are going to be doing quite a detailed piece of art here. We're going to be doing an eye, because eyes are the window to the soul. And if you think this whole project, this whole thing has been about us and the way we see the world and the emotions we feel, and it's been all about a way of using art to process all of that, to help us deal with our own emotions, to help us recognize actually how we're feeling. And that no matter how you're feeling, that's okay. And art can be a way of expressing that. So when you feel like you're not being heard, you're not being listened to, or you're just not able to put into words what's going on in your mind, art can be really fantastic to help you with that. So we're going to focus on an eye today, because I really want to do some drawing skills with you. It's a great finish to our project, because what you can actually do at the end of this is all three parts of the project. If we were in school, what we would do would be layer that. So you've got a choice really. You can either keep it as 3 separate pieces of artwork, or you can use your first piece is your background. Your second piece, which was you can have that cut out and you can layer that on top. And then this eye you can put on top of that. So you're almost creating a collage from the 3 pieces of artwork. So if we were in school, that's what we would be doing. But don't feel like you have to. You might really love each individual piece of artwork, and that's great. So eyes. When you draw an eye, and in fact, if you look, you can even look in your own eye actually. Perhaps you could grab a mirror and have a little look. Or grab your mum or dad or whoever's around and ask them if you could just look at their eyes. Because when you draw an eye, you're not just drawing the eye, you are actually drawing a reflection. So whatever that person is seeing in the eye. Because eyeballs, they're wet. They're wet, so they reflect things, okay? And this is where we get to be really, really creative. And that's what I mean by eyes are a window to our soul. So we could really put in there, in that reflection, we don't have to just draw or paint the white of the reflection. We can be really, really creative and put whatever we want in there. So here's some examples of some creative eyes. We've got a cityscape over here. We've got a diamond here. Okay, reflection of a crow. And then we've got a reflection of time here, and you can see the numbers coming out of the eye. I absolutely love all of these pieces. They're just lovely and they're fascinating to look at. So I want to go through with you today how to do this for yourself. So the first part is we're just going to learn how to draw the basics of an eye. Okay, so how to just form that shape. So I'm going to go through with you. We start by doing the outline, and that includes the pupil and just putting everything where it should be, getting the composition right on your page, okay? And then we're going to pause when it gets to kind of this part here. So we're going to do all of this stage here together, and then we're going to pause here, because then we're going to think about, well, what do we want reflected in that eye? How do we want it to look? Once we've decided on that, and once we've got all of that in place, we'll then continue on, and I'll show you how to put all of these details in. And then that's when we can add the color and we can be quite creative with it. So rather than starting you off on that now, what I'm going to do is talk you through the process of everything we're doing. And then I'm going to switch my camera view. So you're not going to see this on the screen anymore. You're going to see what I'm doing, and you can follow along with me. But I really want you to think about how you're going to add your touch to it, because my piece is going to be a reflection of me, and your piece will be a reflection of you. And when I say that, I mean it can be a reflection of whatever you're thinking, feeling, anything you're passionate about, anything you love doing, or that you really enjoy. Now, these are, I'm just going to move my little picture of me out of the way so that you can see. These are some of the eyes that I created over the summer. I'm sure you remember that first lockdown when it was really, really sunny and warm. There were so many colours. So you can see I've got a bit of a rainbow theme with them all, but each eye's got something different reflected in it. So actually this piece here was one where I was really thinking about the fact that we were all in isolation, and my children were just desperate to be outside, to see their friends. This is actually a reflection of my daughter looking out of the window. So this one for me really represents that first lockdown. But you know, you can see it's bright and it's sunny, and it was very cheerful at that time. We were very, very lucky with the weather. There were lots of colours, and we were just generally quite positive. So that's what came across. And then I kind of went on and I just did some variations of that. So this one here had a very earthy feel to it. In fact, the same as this one here. Because I really enjoy, that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing. I like going out for walks in the woods, going down by the river, going out by the sea. Lots of mine has a very natural feel. Even this one here, those earthy golden tones that are within the eyeball. So I want you just to pause this video for a moment and have a think about, what is it that is a real part of you? What are you really passionate about? What would you like to be reflected in your eyes? So, you know, you could be really interested in nature like me. So maybe it's got something like my ones here, where it's got like a forest, or perhaps you are really passionate about helping the earth, and you know, you love our earth and you want to support it and you want to help protect it, you know. And it could be something like this. It could be people, maybe your friends or family that are very special to you, and you want to reflect those in there. Perhaps it's how you're feeling, similar to this one here for me, how I was feeling watching my children and how much they desperately wanted to be outside seeing their friends. So it really can be anything, whatever you're passionate about. What do you enjoy doing? So if you could pause the video here and just maybe make a note of all of those things that you're passionate about. Okay, I hope you've got a really good idea of what you'd like to do. So what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to switch the camera around and I'm going to guide you through creating your own eye. So I quite like these ones. These ones I was really, really drawn to, probably because I quite like nature and things like space. So I'm going to be drawing the structure of the eye. And what we're going to do is every eye, like I said, because it's wet, it has a natural glow in it, a natural reflection. See here and here. So I'm going to draw that in as part of it. And then once I've got the base drawing down, I'm going to add some colour, and I'm going to use watercolours, because for something like this, because I've got a feeling I'm probably going to go along the spacey theme, the star night theme. I'm not quite sure yet how it's going to go. You're going to be part of the process with me, and I'm just going to see what works as we're doing it. But what I'm going to teach you is this just basic forward facing eye shape, okay? And then we can be creative. So I'm going to take you to the point. I'm going to show you how I add the colour, and what I'm going to do then Once I've done the pencil drawing, I've added the colour using the watercolours, I will then finish that using the ink, much like those of you that have been taught by me before. We have used watercolours and inks before, so we're going to use a very similar process for doing that. Okay, so I am going to flip the screen around and you can follow along with me. Okay, so with me, I've got an A3 sheet of paper, and because I know that I'm using watercolours, I've taped the edges down, because what can happen is when the paper gets quite watery, the paper can curl, and that can make it quite difficult to carry on, particularly if we want to do some more drawing on it. So I have taped it down. I've used masking tape, because if you use sellotape, that will rip the paper. And what I recommend you doing is just, if you're using masking tape, or if you have only got sellotape, then take some of the sticky out of it. So maybe put it onto your clothes and de-stickify it a little bit, and then you can just tape the edges or just tape the corners, anything that kind of tapes it down. Now, because I'm using watercolour, it's not too messy and it's really easy to clean up. So it's a set, if you're using food colouring, what you could do is when we get to that part, you can just get a little bit of colour and mix it up with the water and then use that. Or maybe if you've just got ink at home, ink's quite good as well. Okay, so whatever you have. If you don't have any of those things, then you can just use colouring pencils or whatever you do have available, okay? So here's my 3 pencils. Now, like I said, it's fine for you to use a HB. So, but I've got here a 2H for the initial drawing, because that's quite a hard lead. It's really good for getting the details and the lines in, but without leaving too much of a mark. And then I have got a 2B and a 6B. Okay, so I'm going to start by doing the general shape of an eye. Now, if you remember the stages that I showed you on the PowerPoint, we're actually going to start with the first top curve of the eye, okay? So that's the line that I'm going to do. Now, I would expect you guys at home to do that much fainter than me. I'm doing it darker so that you can see what I'm doing. So can you see there? It's just this arch. Now, on this side, I'm doing this as the corner of the eye, the inside corner of the eye by the nose. I'm just putting a little light circle there because that's actually the tear duct there, okay? So that means when it comes to doing the underneath the curved line, it's going to go round that tear duct, curve a little bit, and then we're going to do a similar curvy line to the bottom. So I'm just going to join it up, okay, like that. All right. So we've got, it's a bit like a lemon shape, really. So we've got this big curvy line at the top, this curvy line at the bottom, and then we've got where the tear duct is. Now, if you're happy where everything is and you think, yeah, that looks about right, what we're going to do is put the lip of the bottom eyelid in. So along this line here, I'm going to do quite a thin line on the inside, which then just joins up here, because that is that bottom eyelid. That's what makes it look a bit more 3D. Okay, so we have the shape of the eye socket now. Okay, and now we need to put in where the actual eyeball is going to be. So I'm just, the thing is, when you look at somebody's eye, you don't actually see, what a lot of people do is they draw a full circle in there, but you don't see the full circle. Okay, the top and the bottom is usually cut off. If they're looking up, you'll see the bottom curve. If they but most of the time, that's part, the top and the bottom of it's actually cut off. So I'm going to imagine my circle, you can do this with your finger first, is actually bigger than the eyelids that we've actually just done. So that means the bits that I'm drawing, I'm doing a curve this side. There you go. And then I'm going to continue that, but I'm not actually making a mark. I'm just thinking, oh, where's that going to join up to? Because remember, this is a circle. And then I'm going to do a curve that side. Now, I've made it quite nice and big there because I really want to make sure that I've got room to put this gorgeous detail that we're going to be putting on. Okay. So there we go, we have got the shape of an eye. Now what I want to put in there, I want to put the pupil of the eye in, and I'm going to do this quite lightly, but it's basically a circle inside that circle. So I hope you can see that. I'll do it a little bit darker for you guys. Now what I want to do, I'm going to put my reflection, I'm going to draw that in now. And usually that reflection creates a bit, because the eye is curved, the reflection that it creates is usually a bit like a pizza slice. So I'm going to put that in now. So there's my pizza slice there, and that is my reflection. So when I'm darkening up these lines, I'm just darkening these ones here, and I'm not going to darken what's inside my pizza slice. I want that to be the light reflection. Okay, so I have got the shape. Now you may have noticed I've not put any eyelashes or anything like that on yet, because I want to, usually the eyelashes is actually the last part of what I add on. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put a little bit more detail. So I'm going to get one of my dark pencils, just my 2B, and I really want to just start darkening some of this up. Now, although I'm using watercolors, and I will be using watercolors, I do want to make these outer lines just a little bit darker, and then you'll really start to see it come in through. Okay, so this is a chance as well just to straighten any bits up. Okay, there we go, and just really define those outlines. Now, because these are the softer lead pencils, these are great for starting to add in some shading as well. So what I'm going to do, let's just go around this bit. I'm not going to go around my reflection, because remember, that's actually light. It's supposed to be the light reflecting. So I don't want to put a really dark outline on it. Okay, but that is still there just as a guide for when I'm starting to put the paint. So the tear duct, now we did the circle in here. So what I'm going to do is actually just join that on there. So it should look something like that. Now the tear duct's quite wet as well. So if I grab my 2H, I'm going to put another like pizza slice reflection in there. And then just, usually there's a bit of texture in there. So this is still using my 2B. I'm just going to come in, and I'm not going to go too dark. I'm just going to use the side of my pencil and just get a little bit of the shading in there, but not in my light bit. Okay, not in my reflection. There we go. Okay, now like I said, this is, the eye is curved, so normally the inside of the eyes, so the corners of the eyes, are usually shaded. So I'm just going to put a light covering of shading in. Okay, I've got a little bit of a smudge of the pencil here, so I'm just going to rub that out. There we go, and I'm going to put a bit of a covering, just a little bit of shade in. Now, because of the top eyelashes, usually the top part of that eye is shaded as well. So I'm just going to add that in there. Now, because this is a nice soft 2B pencil, it should blend quite nicely. So now I'm just going to go over with my finger, and I just want to get a nice soft blend with that. Okay. Now, the middle part of the eye, the pupil, is black, but I'm going to leave that because I really want to do that with the really dark black of the paint. So can you see it's just starting to look a little bit more 3D. Now, I wanted to create something different in there. So I said I was probably going to go along the theme of like a galaxy. But before I do that, every pupil's got kind of a detail. It's like a zigzaggy detail. Now, I was talking about this the other day, actually, and it's almost like, have you seen the heart monitors, the beep, beep, beep? So I've got my 2H again, because I just want to put that underneath, okay, just so that you can still see. And if you've ever seen a heart monitor, it usually has like that big boop, boop, that big spike of noise comes up, and then it's got lots of squiggles. And then you'll get another big spike, and then another big spike. And all of those big spikes need to be pointing to the center point, okay? So there's a big spike there, and then I'll have these squiggles. There's a big spike there, and squiggles. And all the way around, and always pointing to that middle part of the pupil, okay? Can you see that? There we go. Now, once we've done this, there's a bit more to it than that. So I'm just going to do a second layer of little intermittent squiggles here, just to start getting that pupil texture. Now I've done this, remember we've done this in the 2H, so if you've got HB, that's a great pencil to be doing it in. Because I want it quite light, because I might need to take some of it out again so that I can get the detail. Okay, so before we get on to your design on the inside that you're going to do, I'm going to do now, when you look at somebody's eye, there's always that second eye, the line, the eyelid line. So I'm just going to put that line in now. There we go. So that's a bit like that. So I've done that with my lighter pencil. Okay. And then there's usually some kind of lines underneath as well. Okay. So I've just put those in now ready. So now I've got those in place, I can just go over that with my 2B and just put a little bit of shading in there. Okay, just starting to get it looking like a more realistic eye. So when you're doing shading, if you use the side of your pencil, and that will get a lot softer blend rather than these harsh lines. Okay, there we go. Right, so for my one, I said to you earlier, I'm going to do like a space theme, okay? So I'm going to use watercolours. If you have been taught by me before, you may remember the Little Planet project. So we're going to treat the eyeball like one of the little planets. So I'm going to actually cover this in water. Now, the only thing I want you to be really careful of is make sure you don't go over this line here. And make sure, so you can go inside the pupil, and make sure you don't go over your pizza slice, your reflection either, okay? Now, if you've thought, oh, I'm gonna do something different, I wanna do like one of those nature ones, I wanna make trees in it and everything, it's still a really good idea to do this background color first. So perhaps if yours is like a nature-based one, then you might wanna do some lovely green tones, some green and yellow tones in the background would look really nice. So this is just really to get that background layer. So once you've done that, you then choose your colors. So I'm going to use the blues because I want that kind of spacey, starlit sky type effect. Okay. So I'm going to just get my first blue. So I'm just using one blue to start with. Okay, and I'm just getting that in there. Can you see the paper's starting to go wrinkly already? So this is why we tape it down. Now, if you're using food colouring, you should get a really similar effect to this. If you're using pastels as well, you can use pastels to do this, or chalks. They're really good at blending. Okay, so I'm just being really careful that I'm not in that reflection. Now I'm going to get my other blue now. And remember, I've spoken to you before about how to use watercolours. So if you've got watercolours at home, don't go too rough with them, nice and gentle. Okay, it's like you're stroking the paint. You're not stabbing it, attacking it, you're stroking it. So now I'm adding in that other blue. And I like how if you've done the little planets with me before, remember the water does the job of the blending. So I'm really just putting it on there and then letting the water kind of take it wherever it needs to go. And then I can always darken bits up after. So this is more about just getting a nice wash of colour first. Okay. And what I want to do is make sure that the outer edge and the inside edge are the darkest parts of that. Now, I'm not worrying about going over the pupil, because remember, that's all going to be black. Okay. So let's get this on. There we go. Okay, so can you see those two different tones of blue? There we go. Now I'm just going to start adding a thicker layer of colour, and I really want to concentrate on that outside edge. That's what I'm doing. Now be really careful that I've just slipped a tiny bit and went over the eyelid. So if you do that, it's fine, don't worry. Just straighten up the line and it will look natural. Okay. There we go. Now, I want this to really kind of stand out, so I don't think I'm going to use colour on any other part of the eye, because I really want this to be the focus. You can, of course, a bit like my other eyes, if you want to rewind the video and go and have a look at those ones again, if you want to use lots of colour, then you go for it. This is your eye, this is your reflection. Now, what I'm going to do, remember we did those zigzaggy lines underneath, so I'm using those, I can still see those quite faintly. Underneath. So I'm using those as my guide to put in this texture, this detail with the colour now. So that's why we did it quite faintly, so that then we can go back and that's our guide for putting in this texture. Now, can you see here, I went over a little bit. Now, the great thing about watercolours is I'm going to add a little bit of water here and I'm going to just blend that away. And then what you can do is use a little bit of tissue. Okay, and just soak that up a little bit. Okay, so where was I? Adding in the detail here. There we go. Can you see that coming through? Okay, then you can keep adding to that. So I'd want to maybe, because it's a galaxy type that I'm doing, I'd actually put some red in there so that I might get some purpley tones coming through as well, just on parts of it. So I'd add that in and get that nice and blended just on different parts. And a great thing about art, remember, it is layers. So what I'm going to do in a moment is I am going to dry this off, ready to add the next layer. So once you're happy with whatever part you're doing, then you can dry it off, and then it's ready to do the next layers and add the next bit of texture. So if you're doing like a naturey one, then you're going to really want to do that. Really make sure that you dry each layer in between, because it's going to take quite a few layers to complete. Okay, and remember, if you're using watercolours like me or food colouring, then you can just add some water and let the water do the blending for you. It's a lovely medium to use because it does a lot of the work with you. It's quite freeing. And if something's not quite as you want it, don't give up. Remember, it's just not finished. So you can add a bit more colour, you can add a bit more water. You could even have a go, if you are using watery colours like this, add a bit of salt and see what that does and the texture that it can bring about. Okay, so I'm going to dry this and then and then we can have a look at adding the next part. Okay, so that is now nice and dry. So what I'm going to do next, so it only takes a few minutes. What I do is I blast it with a hairdryer, and yeah, it dries really, really quickly. So now that I've got this here, the next part that I want to do is I want to get the black and I want to get that middle part filled in. Okay, so I don't want this too watery at this point. And what I do is I'm going to start with the edge and really concentrate on getting that nice, neat edge there. Like I said, I don't want it too watery because I really don't want it to start blending with the other colours. I want this a nice, strong black. So I'm going to get all the edges, including my pizza slice reflection. And then once I've got all the edges, I can start filling it in. Now you might find for a nice thick colour, you might need a couple of layers on here. So you can just keep pausing, drying it off, and then doing your next layer. You see that, just a nice black covering. Now, because mine is a spacey kind of theme, oh, I've gone a bit watery here, so we'll see what happens. What I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to dry this, because then I want to get some stars on it. Now, putting stars or snowflakes or rain or whatever it is that you want on there can be really quite a lot of fun, because it's going to be a bit of splashing, which is great fun. Now, I'm doing this in watercolors, but what you could do if you've got a thicker paint, you could do your splashes in the thicker paint, because then it just becomes a mixed media piece rather than doing it all in one colour. And things like acrylic or even just poster paint is a lot thicker, so will be quite vibrant against the watercolours. So there we go. I've got my eye outline. There we go. That is done. So I am going to dry this off, and then I can show you the next part. Okay, so I have dried my eye. If you're not at this part yet, please make sure that you're pausing the video whenever you need to, so that you can get to wherever I am. And remember, your design does not need to be the same as mine. Now, what I'm thinking, just having a look at my picture so far, I'm kind of thinking I quite like the way that this looks, and what I might do is actually create some kind of tree outlines and make that part of my eye. So that's before I do the next stage. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm gonna create some trees. So it's winter at the moment, so these trees, they're not going to have lots of branches on. So I'm going to do them some bare, not branches, leaves, I mean. I haven't got lots of leaves on, so I'm going to do some bare branches here. Bare leaf branches here, like this. So there we go. Maybe one here as well. So I'm using the pattern that got created with the colour, with the watercolour. I'm doing them in pencil at the moment, but I am going to go over them. So what you could do at this stage, you might have felt tips at home. I've got these wonderful pencils. I absolutely love these. So I've got standard watercolour pencils. So you could use something like that. These are actually ink pencils, so they're really, really vibrant colours, so something like that would be quite good. But actually I really quite like these. So these are watercolour pens. Okay, so they're very good for getting some detail. Now, because I've got this bluey background colour, I'm actually going to use quite a deep bluey purple. And you could do this with felt tips or with colouring pencils, okay? But what I'm basically doing is just going to go over these now. Okay, and I'm just going to get some of that branch detail in. This can be quite quick, quite rough, okay, because let's think about this. Trees are not standard sizes, lots of wiggly lines, different branches, lots of weird curves in them. They are definitely not how the kind of cartoons draw them. So I'm going to go through, and I've decided that I think this deep dark blue that I'm using here is actually going to be the edge of my eye as well. So what I'll do is, once I've done this bit, you see why it's so good to layer, because now it means I can just keep putting these lovely layers on whatever it is that I want on there. So this is actually going to be the edge of the iris here. Okay, and I'm getting that nice smooth edge, but I want that dark, deep dark tone. So where I did the shading earlier, that's where it's going to be darker. Then what you could do is blend this if you wanted, but I want that rim to it. So then I'm going to do the same on the other side. And just darken that up a bit now. There we go. Okay, now, like I said, this top bit, well, because the eyelashes are there, that is often darker. So I'm going to use this now and just do this dark line here. And I really want to make sure that I'm straightening this up as well, because this is the eyelid. It needs to be quite smooth. Obviously, we're going to put the eyelashes on, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but we want a smoother line as we can get. And then I'm just going to do a thinner line down the bottom here. And actually, now that I kind of look at it, I feel like this needs something. So I'm maybe just going to put some like grass lines, I suppose. Some of these squiggles in here. And I'm going to get those to kind of fade out to there. Now, like that detailed one, you could maybe put, like, if you've got a favourite animal, could put that there. And, oh, that's just made me think, actually, for anybody that has done the Charlie Mackesy with the fox, I do love the fox. So what I might do is put a little foxy here. Just sat there, so I'd do the oval for the body, circle for the head, little ears, and oval for the tail, and then I'll go straight into doing the colours. Now I'm going to use quite a vibrant orange. Let's see if this stands out. Oh, this is the red. So can you see that coming out? So I'm just going to do part of it in this darker colour, and then I'm going to get another lighter colour and do the other. So you're creating a tone, a texture, just through the use of colours. There we go. Okay, my little foxy. But you could do whatever creatures you wanted. Depends what you're doing. Yours might be like an under the sea, so maybe it's got like a fish here or something like that. That would be amazing. I'd love to see that. So do a couple of little, let's do a little, we're on the Charlie Mackesy theme, let's do a little mole as well. Okay, two little woodland friends sitting there. I'm going to use the deeper, darker purple just to do a bit of texture on him there. There we go. So let's add a little bit of grass in front of them. And much like I'm doing right now, you'll see as you go along, you'll be getting ideas and think, oh, actually, once you see it, you might think, oh, that would look really nice in it. That would look really nice with it. And go with your ideas. Like I said, the reason we're doing this one is because the eye is a reflection of you, and you can really see people's feelings and thoughts. So I really want this to be a reflection of how you feel. Now, I love the night sky. I really, really love it. That's why I'm focusing on this. I love being out in nature and going for walks in the woods and things like that. So that's why my eye is looking like this. So I really can't wait actually to see what yours are, because I feel like it's going to give us quite an insight into who you are and what you like. Now, the next part, like I said, this is going to be a night sky for me. So I'm getting the white, I'm making it quite watery, because what I want to do is create some stars. Look, so I'm going to use my hand and I'm just going to flick the white all over my page. Now, I'm not worried if it's kind of going a bit everywhere, and I'm really not worried about that. Because I'm just going to turn it into, I'm going to make it part of the artwork. Okay. There we go. So we got that night sky going on there. So did you see I did that quite gently? I had my hand out and I just, because I wanted it to be controlled. So it's not like that first lesson where we're really splatting loads or anything like that. I wanted it to be controlled. So you can pause it here, and if you have a go at whatever bit you're doing, I'm going to dry this now, and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, so my eye is now dry and I've got my lovely stars on there, which is lovely. So what I could do, like if I wanted to do like some constellations, then I could almost line them up with the white pencil. You could add a bit more detail. So, you know, for example, I could add like a reflection on there with the white. And yeah, I could just add a little bit more texture to it. Okay, using the white and highlighting certain parts. Okay, so you can do the fine details like that. Now what I'm going to do for the next part is really finishing it off. So you might want to grab your light pencil again for this, and so you can just do a few of the starter bits on there. So I'm going to show you how to put the lashes on first, and then we're going to bring it all together by doing the final dark lines. And I'm going to use my black watercolor pen here. So with eyelashes, the reason it often doesn't look very real is because people do them too straight. They do them all in the same direction. And actually to create an eye that looks more realistic, well, eyelashes, they all start in slightly different places. And they're all slightly different lengths, and they've got a curve to them, and they all go slightly different directions, and they can cross over and things like that. So we're going to start here. So I'm going to do these long ones first, because this is often the easiest ones. Now, I want to show you, though, that actually with an eyelash, what it does is it doesn't just come out. It actually comes down and over the eye and then out, and then it flicks out, okay? So down and over and then flick out. Down and over and then flick out. And it starts at slightly different places each time. So one might start here, one might start here, and so on. Just make sure you're not actually starting them on the eyeball, okay? So then that would flick out. And then that one. Can you see how it's kind of going into the eye? And the further up you get, the straighter they become, because when you get to about this point here, then if you're looking at somebody's eye, you'll actually see they start going in a different direction. Okay, so as you get to the corner of the eye this side, the lashes get shorter. All right, now I'm only going to put those on because I don't want to put too many on in pencil, because actually I want to do it with my pen here to make it really stand out. So then I do the bottom lashes, and it's the same. It starts from this lash line, not the inside here, okay, and it's much the same. See, they're kind of, some are crossing over, different lengths, different curves to them. They're not all going in exactly the same direction. That crisscross makes it look a lot more realistic, but just make sure you've got that curve. And if you do it like a flick, then you'll naturally get that pointy bit at the end. So again, the same as the top lid, the lashes about here, about this point, will start going in the opposite direction. Okay, and the closer you get to the corner, the thinner they get. Okay, so that's just my guide lines. Okay, because what I really want to do is I want to do that with this here. Now, before I do that though, I'm actually going to go over my lid lines. Okay, and darken those up. So whatever you're using at home, in school we would be using handwriting pens to do this. So you might have a pen at home. So anything that's going to give that really nice dark line. Okay, so again, I'm going to come around here. I love these though because they've got a brush tip on them, and it means you can get that really thin line if you want it, or quite a thicker line. You can get pens like this that are like felt tips as well. And you just get that brush tip. Okay, if you haven't got pens like this, you could just be doing this with a fine paintbrush as well. You don't need fancy pens or anything like that to do this. So just be going over your lines. Okay, and I'm going to do this lid line as well. Don't feel like you need to do it all in one line like I did. You can do it in parts. So let's go over this tear duct. Okay, have a little bit of shading in. So you can see I'm doing it quite quickly. Always looks a bit bobbly. Okay, there we go. I'll just darken that bit. So you can really see now that the last bit are the lashes. Okay, so I'm going to start this side because I don't want to do this side because I'm right-handed. I don't want to do this side and then end up smudging it with my hand. So I'm going to start this side, and I'm going to start with those shorter lashes. And I'm just following my guide of the lashes that I did before. So I don't need to go over them exactly. I still want to do it quite quick because I want them to look as natural as possible. And I can always go over and darken them. See, like this one. Okay, and then I'm going to start going in the other direction. Remember, these lashes can cross over as well. That is generally what natural lashes do. They crisscross. But really do, I mean, look at your eye, look at somebody in your family's eye, and just see how that eye actually looks, and do it like that. It will help you quite a lot. So once I've got all of those basic ones in, you can then start thickening it up. And the way you thicken it up is just lots and lots of layers of these lashes. And can you see it's getting thicker and thicker here? And then you can almost, if something doesn't quite look right, so like this bit here, I'd want to thicken this, and you can correct it as you go. I quite like these ones, so I'm probably going to leave these ones. And what you find is the outer corner of the eye, the lashes are generally thicker and longer there anyway. So you don't want to thicken it up all the way along. There we go. Just going quite quickly to show you guys. And you just keep adding until you're happy with how it looks. There we go, and I'm just going to thicken these ones just a little bit. All right. So if you need to, you can pause the video at this point and just keep on adding your details. But what I'm going to do now is start on the bottom layer. Now, like I said, the lashes should start from lots of different places. They don't all just start in one line. So some are starting higher and some are starting lower on here. Now, I've started from this side this time because I knew that there was space down here for my hand to be without smudging anything. Just be aware of that, particularly if you're using something quite chalky like pastels. You don't want to blend it as you move it along. It's really frustrating. I've done it so many times. Then you get really cross at yourself. You can always, there's always ways of fixing it. It just takes you a bit longer. There we go, and then I'm at the point now where I'm just changing direction. Now this is where the lashes aren't quite as thick and they aren't quite as long. So I'm just gonna keep going. There we go, until the end. Okay, so you should have something that resembles something similar to this. Not too similar though. I really hope that yours is quite different from mine. Mine was just an example for you guys, and a way of you just following along. So as long as you've kept a same idea, what you can then do, if this was a piece of artwork that I was going to display, then I would want to add a little bit more shading. I might want to put some more colors and things on it. But really the focus for today was this iris bit, this bit here, where it really showed a picture and a representation of you and the things that you enjoyed. So this for me, I love the night sky. I love watching the stars, and I love being out in nature and going to the woods and things like that. So this here has got an element of all of that in there. It's got this night sky, it's got the stars, it's got the trees, and it's even got some cute little animals. Okay. So I hope you get on really well with this. I really can't wait to see these. Remember, these are like the finale of the entire project. These are you, the reflection of you. And I really hope that through this project, you've really got in touch with how you're feeling and with who you are. And I really think, particularly in a time like this where things are quite tricky, it's really important to keep connecting with who we are and the things that, particularly the things we enjoy. And that's what this eye is about. It's about you really knowing what passions you have, what you enjoy, what makes you you, and celebrating it. So I can't wait to see these. Like I said at the beginning, you can keep these as 3 separate pieces of artwork, or you can layer them as a collage and create one wonderful piece of artwork altogether. But whatever you choose to do, please make sure you share it. I can't wait to see it. You are wonderful artists. Please don't forget that. You can't get this wrong. None of this you can get wrong. And actually what I want to see is loads of different art. I want these all to be different. They're supposed to be different. And don't feel like you need to do it like me. You do it like you. That's the whole point of this project, is celebrating you and who you are and all those different feelings that you have. It's about celebrating that. And I really want you to be proud of this. Don't get frustrated with it. If it's not going the way you want it to go, leave it. If you're using paint, let it dry, walk away from it, come back to it, okay? If it's not how you want it, it's just not finished. So you come back to it and you do your next layer and then your next layer, okay? All right then, I can't wait to see all of these, and I look forward to doing something new with you next week. Okay, Take care. Bye.